Utilities. We're going to get started right away. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening. I see the mayor has joined us. So the first item is we wanted the utility committee to take a look at the draft CFCs. They've been modified even since this version. I did talk to Jennifer Robertson and she felt it was appropriate to just share with you kind of in general where we're at with the water CFCs. Remember that we did the sewer CFCs and credits, and then we did the water or the water credit here recently. And so now this is the last piece to kind of that program where before we start looking at water and sewer rates, this is looking at the actual water CFCs. So I guess either Nick or Noah, is there anything in particular that you want to provide? Is just kind of a general preamble to what the council will be seeing in the not too distant future?
I'd be happy to talk about it briefly. Essentially, what McCormick has proposed to the city is that they're going to build 5 of the CIP projects on our capital facility plan list that are also the basis of the CFC calculation. And so we have listed those projects under the whereas statement K. You would see the 5 projects that are listed. It's the well 12 development, treatment, and booster pump station, the 390 to 580 zone booster station, which is the second lift that is going. The first lift is at Stetson Heights, and then there will be a second lift pump station just to the west of Stetson Heights to get water all the way up to McCormick Woods. They're proposing to build the 390 to 580 transmission main, which is related to the second project I just described, the second lift station. They'd build the 580 to 660 booster station, as well as the reservoir for the 660 zone. So in all, that's $11.8 million worth of projects that they would be building for the city. And that is our cost from our CFC calculation, not necessarily their cost. And so they're capped at how much CFC credit they can receive to the lesser of their cost to actually build this, their certified cost, or the $11.8 million. They're proposing to receive a CFC credit for every unit of housing they build in McCormick. And that credit would be, the denominator is 2,000 lots. So the next 2,000 homes that they build in McCormick would receive, right now, I think the discount is around $5,900. And if the numbers change slightly, or if the denominator changed, that credit amount would change. So their $11,000 CFC that they're required to pay, they'd be getting a reduction of $5,900 from that amount, but they would be building all of the infrastructure that is needed to serve their project. Right now, we're still negotiating a couple of things. We were seeking a release from the 1998 purchase and sale agreement for when the city bought the McCormick water system. We're still talking about the pros and cons of that term. We're also, I think one of the big thematic concerns of the agreement is they're wanting us to start granting credits immediately, and they're guaranteeing that they'll build all this stuff within 5 years, with the exception that well 12 could take longer if Foster takes longer. And we just want to make sure that we're not in a situation where we've given them more benefit in credits than they've given us actual deliverables, either completed designs or on the ground construction. And I think that pretty much summarizes the agreement. It's structured just like our sewer CFC agreement that we did for the apartments there on Sydney, and it's similar to the impact fee agreement that we did for the McCormick transportation agreement. A lot of the same terminology and structure. Is there anything I missed, Noah or Rob?
I would just speak we would like to be indemnified as it relates to fulfilling this agreement, or they would like us to, we would like to be indemnified, and they're not willing, you know, to release us from any liabilities, but they're not willing to do that until we get water. I think the biggest catch in that is the water rights that we aren't in control of. And so how we navigate that is still unresolved. And did I get that somewhat right, Nick?
I think so. If you're talking about the release from the 98 agreement.
I am.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's, I said indemnification, but I was referring to the release of the 98 agreement. But until we, you know, we're able to get the water rights and they can build the infrastructure, they're not willing to provide that release.
Nick had a question. You had mentioned that trying to track, or at least the benefit coming to the city was parallel to the amount of benefit they were getting. How do you see that working, or how do you see that as playing out?
Well, I think the good thing is that one of these projects, they're already $500,000 into design. That's the reservoir. So I believe that they could probably submit cost certification showing that they've spent $500,000 immediately. And as long as they continue delivering projects at a rate that is faster than they are receiving credit, I think we're never going to find ourselves in a situation where we have to temporarily turn off the credit while they catch up on their work. They've set a pretty aggressive timeline for 4 out of the 5, for all 5 projects, with the exception that the well 12 may not be able to be completed within that 5-year window. But they're going to spend a pretty good amount of money here in the next 5 years per the agreement. And theoretically, they're, you know, what we're looking at for housing units that they're building, I think they'll be just ahead of the curve pretty continuously until we get to the point where we have to drill well 12, and then it's really up to Foster. And so we've talked about having them put a bond in place to guarantee that they'll complete that work or pay the CFCs. But obviously there's costs associated with the bonds. And so we're just trying to find kind of a win-win solution that doesn't put the city in a bad position, but lets the credit start flowing sooner rather than later. And what I've pointed out in our discussions internally is that, you know, right now we're using a denominator of 2,000 units. Right. If for some reason we don't start giving that credit until they actually deliver projects, that denominator is going to have to get smaller, which means down the road the credit is a larger share of the CFC. So I think that we're going to pay the same amount either way.
Okay, so that's going on. So really the big one is what the mayor brought up. That seems to be the real sticking point, because everything I read here and what you've talked about seems good so far.
Yes, and I think we're having conversations with McCormick on that here in the next week or so, and so we'll have a report back to you soon, and probably a draft that's ready for your review.
Awesome.
I have just a couple comments, and I think you've kind of addressed them. One is I would want to make sure that we're not in a situation where we're doling out credits before they've made the infrastructure improvements, or we have some assurances that vis-a-vis a bond or something that we're going to get the improvements. Otherwise, I would defer to the attorney, but to me, it kind of suggests to get the public funds unless we have some kind of a ironclad agreement. The other comment, I guess, is a question. The issue with them doing the well improvement, is that dependent upon water rights?
Yes.
So is it possible that, I guess one question would be, how comfortable, if at all, do we believe that we will eventually get water rights, number 1, and number 2, is it possible that we could go ahead and put in the well. We just wouldn't draw from it until we have the water rights approved.
Well, that's what we did on well 13. They're not willing to spend that money until we have water right. Till we perfected the water rights. So they're not willing to spend that cash like we did on well 13. To your other question, John. So what we're proposing is deliverables are construction activity or engineering documents. And as Nick alluded to, they've spent about $500,000 to this point. And as long as they turn, they're giving us those, Mark has a term for it, whatever these engineering documents are, and that we have the rights to those. We're counting that as a deliverable, because if they walked away, we could use those same drawings, provided they were turned over to us to build the project ourselves. So
I appreciate that, and I think that's relieved a lot of my concern. Other than there's 500,000 worth of benefits, and I don't know how quickly they're going to go through 500,000 with the CFC credits that they will receive. So
calculator here.
Yeah, and I would look at section 10, and that's where we added a clause where they're going to grant the intellectual rights to all the designs to the city. So anything that they design, we have the ability to pick up and continue should they default or walk away from the project.
So that 500,000 represents 250 houses. We saw a record at 150 this year, and we're hearing 300 houses next year and potentially. And if they can continue to provide deliverables, I don't think we're going to. I think we're going to be close, but we can't ever get to the point where we're giving credits that they haven't earned yet.
yeah, I totally agree. So okay, thank you. By the way, I think this is great.
Okay. Okay, and there's definitely more to come on that. So the next item, I think, is going to be fairly quick in your packet. And again, this is still in a draft form. Let me get to it here. We have a list. As you know, we're doing the city's first storm drainage comprehensive plan. And a big piece of that comprehensive plan is an actual storm capital improvement plan. And so this is, I'm not going through every project. I just want to let you know that you can look through these at your leisure if you have insomnia. Just know that we are developing the storm CIP list. We've gone, I think we've met twice with our consultant Herrera. We've removed, I believe, a number of projects that staff didn't feel needed to be on this list. I guess, is that an accurate representation, Jackie, that we whittled it down?
Yes, I would agree with that, and combine some.
And combine. So we're trying to get to a realistic storm CIP because, as you know, having a CIP is extremely important for it to be somewhat accurate, but also manageable in it, so that it isn't just a wish list. So that's kind of where we're at. This is just kind of a first cut at. This is what we're thinking of CIP projects. Again, and they're not necessarily, these aren't related to our transportation projects. They're storm drainage CIPs within transportation projects, but those, like the Tremont corridor, for example, we had $700,000 that we contributed towards that storm system from the storm fund. And although it was a storm CIP, of course, we didn't have a CIP list, but we're going to have that storm drainage portion be part of those complete street projects and not try to split them out.
This right here is a good example of where we combine some projects too, because, like, for instance, this project is where 390 and 260 mains go across Blackjack Creek. And it's an untenable situation right now. So it will be beneficial to the stormwater system as well as the water utility. So it's listed under other departments, and here's one for streets, and we've combined where we could.
Correct. So like I said, this is just a first shot at presenting ultimately what the CIPs will be, and then we'll be completing the actual storm drainage comprehensive plan here in 2022, so that it's ready for adoption in the comprehensive plan incorporated by reference in 2023. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll take that as a no. The next item is just very quickly, it's just letting you know that the McCormick sewer pump station, we hit a bit of a snag, but we've worked through it, as we always try to do. So as you know, the McCormick pump station 1 ended up having that, it had a water hammer issue that was moving the connection to the existing system.
A water hammer or a sewer hammer?
Well, it's water.
It's called the water hammer.
Sewerage water hammer. And so we had a bit of a back and forth on what the best solution was, whether there was a surge tank needed to be installed. McCormick finally came back and said, the surge tank is just, you have to build a whole new building. It's too much. So their consultants have, stamped and guaranteed that the 2 air vac system is going to resolve the issue, along with some bracing at the connection. They also found out some reasons why they thought that connection was moving as well, that they're going to address. The reason we're showing this exhibit is, they wanted to put air vacs in the middle of Tremont, and we said, not over the mayor's dead body. And so we've found 2 locations. The one of them there that Jackie's on, it's right there on the back side of the sidewalk, kind of over on the right side of the road. When you go into Canyon Court, there's kind of a dead space over there. So we can put one there, and all, the air vac, all you're going to see is a little 2x3 vault lid, and then a little galvanized pipe, 2-inch pipe that sticks up and hooks. So that's a good location there. The other location is they wanted to put it in the Pottery roundabout, and we said no, but we found a location right there, which is right before you get to the Pottery roundabout to the right. You notice that there's we called it our vault farm. It's where all the vaults for a lot of the joint utility trench stuff went in, and there was an open right-of-way area when the road got moved up from the original design. So there's kind of a little triangular area there that we've utilized for all the vaults, and you can see them in this photo. So we're going to put that air vac there as well. So we've got 2 locations that won't require cutting into asphalt. We may have to remove a panel of concrete in this location, but that's pretty minimal. The gas station construction, other than some planting issues, they were able to, remove and modify what we built with the Tremont project to get their right in, right out entry. And so I think we've come to a good solution. So we're finally going to get this resolved.
Mark,
Yes.
what is causing that?
What is causing what?
What is causing the air hammer issue? Is there some kind of intrusion? I mean, what happens?
No, it's so from the McCormick pump station 1, it's a 16-inch diameter force main. So it's a very large force main that pumps all the way across Highway 16 and all the way up to Pottery. So when you're pumping all that, there's a lot of weight in that column of water. And then when the pump shuts off and it pushes back, it creates a water hammer. So hammers when the pumps kick on and when it shuts off, and that was moving that joint. And so the air vacs are going to allow us to reduce that water hammer surge, so that we're not having, concerns about the force main being blown apart by the pumps. The other thing we did was that they've already done was how the pumps were starting and stopping initially. That's been dialed down a bit. But we didn't want to make that the solution, because 10 years from now, somebody from the shop could go out there and go, hey, this is dialed to 70%. Let's crank it up to 100. And then we didn't address it. So we don't need that much pumping surge, I'll say, operationally right now, but we definitely want the ability, if we need it, when we need it in the future, to make these repairs now before we let McCormick Communities off the hook. And so we did release the overall performance bond for the entire lift station. And we've got the 2-year maintenance bond clock ticking on the work that we've accepted. We do have 2 items, which is this surge issue and then that water intrusion issue has a new separate performance bond for that value. And when this is all corrected, then that'll start a 2-year clock specific to that warranty work.
Thank you.
Mark, could this be resolved with variable speed startup and shut down on the pumps?
Well, we do have that. So we do have variable speed. But when we noticed the movement initially, and I'm going to say that this was serendipitous, they had it turned up. I'm visualizing an old Get Smart knob or something. They had it turned all the way up, right? So it was like ramping up very quickly. And that allowed us to actually, Darren saw the thing move in the field. So I'm glad they did have that ramped up, and they have turned that down, the variable speed, but it still has a maximum capacity to ramp up faster if needed. So we do have variable speed pumps in there.
I guess in my little pea brain, I'm thinking that if the issue is when we shut off, if it ramps down to full speed down to 0 in, whatever, in a down measure, so it isn't that sudden stop of everything.
Yeah, we've made those adjustments on both the pumps going on and the pumps coming off.
Okay.
Again, the reason though we wanted to doubly make sure McCormick is willing to make these modifications is in case somebody in the future adjusts the pumps, because that was their first comment back was, oh, we can just turn back the operational side and manage it from there. But again, my concern is 10, 15 years from now, when nobody's here that remembers that, suddenly it's being maxed out, even with variable speed pumps. And now we've exceeded, that pipe's capacity or that joint's capacity to handle it. So,
and if they turned it up, so that they ramped it up faster and ramped it down faster, if they didn't happen to be in the pump house when it happened, they wouldn't know that it was slamming the way it is. So,
hey, well, you guys are the engineers, not me.
yeah,
I'm not an engineer. Don't blame that on me.
we looked at operational first, and they thought that they were just going to fix it operationally. And when we talked to staff, we felt like that's great, but that's really a Band-Aid. And we're looking at a pump station that's going to be here, 50 to 100 years from now. And we just want to get it right before we let them out of the performance bond.
And
Yes,
Mark,
my comment is, instead of having a galvanized pipe coming up out of the ground, if it can be landscaped so that it's not visible, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, air vacs are pretty standard.
Amongst engineers, but not us peons that drive by it all the time.
Jay?
We'll put a political sign on one of them.
Ouch.
Your hands raised, Jay. So I was just adamant we weren't going to cut the blacktop in 100 years.
Yeah.
I
and-
was agreed when Mark said it wouldn't happen over your dead body. I was going to throw him in there as well. So
Yeah, there's no cutting of the asphalt. We've actually got a road moratorium ordinance, even though there's been a few people that have already tried to challenge that, and we are saying no. So, okay, the next piece is, it's a request. But I wanted to make sure everybody understood what the request was. This is a request that has come into the mid-biennial budget amendment that Noah asked for. And so what this is so in storm drainage, Zach's looking ahead on the MPDS permit requirements and the new standards. And in the new permit, there are compliance issues that are going to require the city do more than look at our illicit discharge detection elimination. That's basically finding, some auto shop that's got doing oil changes in a garage that then the floor drain goes to the storm system. It expands into actually getting into the buildings and looking at other storm drainage related compliance issues. So we knew that was going to ramp up with the storm drainage. At the same time, our cross connection control program for water is, I think it's 60% of where it needs to be. And I think Jackie may or may not agree with that. I think that we're managing it right now, but the piece that we aren't managing is, the number of, getting into these buildings, especially on tenant improvements, and seeing that what used to be just some sort of sales now is a chiropractor that has an x-ray, or it's a laundromat or something. We need to be much more involved with the building department on these TIs and on just new construction, where we're getting into the buildings and making sure that they do have reduced pressure backflow devices, any table 9, cross connections that are in the building. Like if you've got a soda machine, or you've got, there's a number of cross connection no-nos that if you don't have a reduced pressure backflow device, you're not compliant. So we've always had a problem getting a body in to those buildings. And then we're also developing our fats and oils and grease programs with the same issue. I know you've heard of the grease clogs that we've had down on Bay Street a number of times. That's coming from some primary restaurants, and being able to then get in when these things are being modified or approved, even if it's just educational, or we're determining that the grease trap that was put in is too small and it's not working. So what we're proposing is, out of the 3 utilities, funding an FTE that's a single person that's going to take charge of all 3 of these programs from a compliance standpoint and move them forward. So that's what
Mark, I don't think you need to go much more into this. This was already presented at the finance committee and approved.
Oh, I didn't know that.
To move forward.
Okay, sorry. Well, Cindy didn't know about it, and Jay. So, okay, thank you.
If I could just say one quick thing, I also want to point out, I don't know if this was pointed out before, but I also want to point out that this is going to be a lot better for our businesses, because they're going to have one person come in one time. So it's going to look like Port Orchard has their stuff together and knows what they're doing, and that we are lean and mean. So I think it's really a good thing.
Okay, well, thank you for approving that.
Well, it was only recommended to the full council, but it'll be on next Tuesday's work study. All of the new positions that have been recommended by the finance committee will be before the full council.
Okay, thank you.
Is that cost going to be split between the 3 utilities?
Yes.
Evenly? How are you going to determine?
33, 33, 33.
I see. So it won't waste money trying to figure out how much time is being spent.
Yeah, I mean, every year I get a sheet, everybody gets a sheet that we potentially readjust what we think we've allocated our time to. It's checks and balances.
Okay, thank you.
Pottery sewage lift station emergency repair. The quick update on that is that basically that project is done. And we are looking at just getting that closed out from the standpoint of working now with the Public Works Board on the loan. So for all intents and purposes, the work itself is now done. So that project went very well.
Is there any new video with that, Mark?
No. I don't know what pictures were taken during the construction. If you send me an email, I can maybe forward that to Darren or Tony and see if they did take photos during the work. They were doing it so quickly that.
No, it's just like, we saw the pictures of it, basically coming apart at the seams. So I didn't know if they had taken any new ones. Not a biggie.
Okay. The next one is, and it's in your packet, it's the ARR, is it ARPA? Not
ARPA.
the ARPA funding that Jackie's working on. The mayor and Jackie identified the connection of the 390 to the 580 zone on the Old Clifton route. Old Clifton Road route, and what you have in your packet is the advertisement that we have out for the design of that. I think it's due the 14th. So this
Next
Thursday is when we'll receive the statement of qualifications so we can get moving on the design of that project. The next.
Hey, Mark, something else related to ARPA is that in the budget, mid-year budget review, we also recommended that we advance the well 13 design from 90% to 100% with ARPA funds. And so that when we finally do get those water rights, we're not sitting around for 6 or 9 months for the consultant to finish designing that project. We've got a 100% design and we're ready to go as soon as we get water rights.
Correct. Yeah, I remember we talked about what that number was going to be. So, and then the next thing in your packet again is you already are aware of these, and these are actually on tonight's agenda for accepting the dollars. So this is again just remind you that we did receive as well as the $500,000 loan that we got for the Pottery pump station. We now have these 3 projects. I think it's 0.94%. I think the emergency was 0%, wasn't it, Jackie?
If I remember correctly, yeah.
Yeah, so these are 1% over 20 years. So these are in your packet for approval tonight to accept those, to ratify the mayor's signature. The next item, and again, that's for the sewer lift stations. That's for all of the sewer lift stations. They're in need of upgrading the controls. They're old circuit boards and things that we're having trouble finding parts. Then there's the 390 booster pump, and then there's the Melcher, which is, if you've been into the Melcher water pump station, it looks like you're walking into a World War II submarine.
If I could clarify just for a second, it may be confusing. It's not all of the lift stations. It's all of the ones that needed it, which is a total of 6, plus one of them is getting a new genset.
Okay, yeah. It's control modification for the control systems on that. Okay, and the next topic. So Foster, I'm going to let Jackie give you a brief update, and I know that the mayor has also been involved in some recent conversations where we have our lobbyist now involved in conversation so that we can get ecology hopefully moving in the right direction. So I guess, Jackie, do you want to jump in first?
Sure. So I attended the September 21st, I virtually attended the September 21st meeting of the Joint Legislative Task Force. We are not, as Foster representatives, we are no longer allowed or asked to give testimony. What happens is a representative from Ecology calls us the day before a meeting and asks what the current status of our project is. So the focus of Foster seems to not necessarily be so much on the projects, as that's the way that Ecology is pushing it. Ecology has lately made some really controversial decisions that, according to our water rights attorney, as well as the Washington Water Utility Council's water rights attorney, Adam Gravely, are basically trying to set policy. And we are pushing back a bit with that. Our plan going forward, and this is where our lobbyist has gotten involved, as well as the representative for Association of Washington Cities that sits on the task force. What we're doing is talking directly with Dave Christensen, who's the person from Ecology who represents Ecology on the task force, and reached out to him, and we've initiated, we having a conversation with him. I believe it's going to be next week. It's not set in stone yet. I believe it's going to be next week, initially to talk to him, as well as the water resource manager for the Northwest Office of Department of Ecology, which is Rhea Burns. Some of the problems that we're having with what they've been doing lately is basically coming out and saying that you can't use municipal water rights for stream augmentation, that's not part of the municipal definition, which, I mean, if we don't use our municipal rights, where are we going to get the water? It doesn't make any sense. And that would be a policy decision that we feel that they're not qualified to make unless they're directed so by a judicial or legislative body. That's just one of the issues that we have going on. So we're working on being proactive rather than sitting back and waiting for them to make a decision that's not going to be favorable for us. We're trying to get them to state their position beforehand so we will know how to move forward.
Yeah, so that's good summary, Jackie. And it's Carl Schroeder is the one of the lobbyists at the Association Washington Cities that we've engaged his help, and he's been very involved in this entire process. So between him and Josh, I think we have an opportunity to engage in this proactively.
And what you have in your packets, it's our conceptual mitigation plan for mitigation and augmentation. So we've submitted our draft record of examination, correct, Jackie?
No, we have not. We don't have the ROE or report of examination until we finish the mitigation strategies. And we were not able to work on the mitigation strategies. We've basically been waiting until as of Friday, the 15th, we're supposed to have the comments back from the tribes. We're missing comments. We have comments from Fish and Wildlife and from Ecology themselves. Don't have comments from Squaxin Island, Skokomish, or Suquamish. And they have assured me that they will have their comments to me by the 15th for our initial hydraulic analysis of the aquifers. So once we get those back, then their comments can be taken into the preliminary document. And at the same time, our sub-consultants have been working on mitigation strategies, but they can't go too awful far until they hear what the tribes have to say. So we're hoping to have a report of examination, at least a draft one. I'm hoping by the end of the year, and an actual report of examination that we can submit to Ecology by the first quarter.
Okay. Okay.
So quick question. So is this document, where does this lie? Is this in with somebody already, or?
This has been turned into Department of Ecology. As you can see, that it was presented by Port Orchard to Ecology in November, and then on November 15th, which was our initial deadline under Foster, that it was presented by Ecology. See, even then we weren't able to present our own paper. Ecology presented it to the JLTF in November of 2018. At that time, we were given a little bit of feedback, and then we started working on the hydraulic modeling for the groundwater model, and discovered, and at the same time we were drilling wells, and then discovered that the model was wrong, and you know that story.
So this is just a historic document then.
This is the conceptual plan, but it's the basis for the actual mitigation plan that we do need to turn in.
Well, yeah, the only reason I bring it up was on page 3, it starts with the city of Port Angeles. So,
Good grief.
you know, I just wanted to, you know, that's why I was trying to figure it out. I mean, otherwise, you know, it's a great document, but as long as it's historic right now, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't waste, you know.
Oh, good.
I wonder where that came from.
But they, you know, anyway, it's all minor if it's, you know, like I say, it's a historic document. That's what I thought, but I wanted to at least ask the question.
Yeah, this is what was originally required, that the task force originally required of the Fosters to kind of get their arms around what was going on.
It's a nice document.
Except it's got the wrong city on it.
Hey, you know.
It's just in one spot.
And here we are 3 years later.
Yeah, well, that, to me, that's the bigger thing is we have the conceptual done and ready to go in 2018. We drilled a well, found water, and now we're still just in a holding pattern. So,
Right, and that's the main point.
so we're doing everything we can to get the legislature. The legislature almost didn't even fund the joint legislative task force in this last legislative session. That was a victory in itself. So I feel like it's a bit of a wounded animal walking through the woods right now. We've got to keep it moving with legislative support and education.
And you have to remember too, trying to not be a pessimist and be an optimist about it, is that of the 5 Fosters, Yelm, of course, was where the Foster decision came from. And so they have their plan is submitted to Ecology, and Ecology is chewing on it. We're the next in line. And then after us is Spanaway and Sumner. And Spanaway and Sumner don't even have the hydraulic model approved yet for them to begin working on. So we're you know, second to the front. So
Even though our model was wrong,
yeah.
Remember that, you know, the city council chose to join with the other participants when we did that USGS groundwater model about what, 10 years ago. So that was an important decision to join WaterPack and be a part of that group that helped fund that study. I mean, it's not all wrong. It's just there's parts of it that aren't correct.
Right. And I asked the question, why, if we know that that groundwater modeling that's accepted by USGS is not intended to be used as a groundwater model, it's intended to be used for the purposes of United States Geological Survey, not a groundwater model. So why are we using it? And that's the best available method that Ecology and everybody can accept, was the answer that I got.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, comments? Give you guys a little bit of a break before your next meeting.
Got one more, Mark.
One more. Yep.
Oh, the water system plan. Sorry, Jackie.
Yes.
Oh, this is an important one, yeah.
You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, go ahead and
Okay.
kind of let everybody know where we're at on the water system.
This that I sent you was as of last Friday. This is down this side is the number of comments that we received from Department of Health, Office of Drinking Water. Never in my 42 years in the industry have I seen this many comments come through, but they had multiple people reviewing because of their staff shortages. So they had outside reviewers and reviewers that don't normally look at this, and planners that don't normally do this kind of thing. So we really got stuck with a lot, but all of the ones that are white have been handled. And I think I had one left on here that I was still working on when I had to put your packets together. that has now been taken care of. And all of our stuff has been sent to, yeah, right here, this one. All of our stuff has now been sent to BHC, and they just need to update the other ones that are in yellow, and we will have our plans submitted. And I did it just at 11:30 this morning. I sent it all to BHC, and now I'm starting to work on the well 11 DWSRF application.
This is the resubmittal.
Right, we resubmitted last November and then got back comments in July, and it's taken us this long to respond to all of their comments. So
So the
Good
plan is,
job. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I said, good job. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
and I guess, Jackie, at one point, this was going to be the 2017 water system plan, and now it's actually going to be the 2019.
I'm going back and forth with health about it, whether it'll be 19 or 20.
I'm hoping it's 20.
They're saying if we provide them with information through 18 and 19, that it can be the 19 plan. But I'm saying if we provide you information for 18 and 19, it should be the 20 plan, because we wouldn't have the information for 19 unless it were 20. So.
Right. So if we can get this for 20, and then these system plans have a 10-year cycle as opposed to, I think it's still a 6-year for the other plans.
It is. And this used to be 6 until about 10 years ago.
So if we can get this to 2020, that gets us to 2030. And then we're getting back on cycle with our comprehensive plan, which is 2023, so that we can be actually right on to get them all redone in 2023, 2030. So anyway, okay. Thank you, Jackie. So at this point, this was more of just kind of an update type of a utility committee. We didn't have one last month. There wasn't a lot to update. So I know we rushed through things a bit. Are there any questions?
Any idea at all when Foster project will make some kind of progress so that we can move forward?
I think we're going to know more
Like 5 years? 10?
after this. We were told, I got an email a couple of weeks ago that somebody at Ecology threw out a 2024 date, and that got me spun up. And I said, I need an honest assessment of, because that's unacceptable. And that led to a number of emails that led to actually a meeting that we're having tomorrow.
No, next week. I think it's 21st.
21st.
So Jackie, how often do I ask that question?
At least once a week. At least.
It's almost as often as you ask me where are we at on the pathway acquisitions, and it's we're getting, so okay. Well, it is now 5:49. I guess we can we'll call it at 5:50, and so I'm hoping we're done with Foster in 2022. I hope it doesn't go to 2023. 2024 is completely ridiculous. So we'll see.
I'm hopeful we do this design work. We spend another year in this Foster mess, and then maybe we're in construction in 23. You know, but which then that puts us drawing water in 24. It just seems like a long ways away.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not driving the train on this one. We're just on it and rolling down the track. So
He wanted to say bus.
I didn't, and I did that intentionally for Councilmember Clausen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, it's now 5:50. Are we good?
And the next meeting is November 9th.
Correct, unless canceled.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good meeting. See you in a minute.